Hello and welcome. This is Brenda McChesney. I'm the co-founder and associate director of the National Family Support Network. And I'm here today in a conversation with Dr. Manoj Krishna, the founder of HappierMe app. And today we'll be exploring why he created the app and how it can be applied to family support organizations, their staff, and the families we serve across the country and across the world. So welcome, Dr. Manoj. It's great to have you.
Brenda, thank you so much. I'm really looking forward to our collaboration because, as you know, our mission at HappierMe is to reduce suffering, help people lead happier and more successful lives, and make the world a better place. So I think it's a perfect partnership.
Most definitely. I think we've been having a conversation for close to 6 months now. And as soon as we met, I saw instantaneously how this could be a benefit to the families that we work with across the country through the over 3,000 family resource centers and over 41 states and the District of Columbia that are members at the National Family Support Network. So before we get into the intricacies of the app, tell me a little bit more about why you created this movement.
You know, I joined medicine to reduce suffering, and I had a wonderful career for 30 years. And I left medicine for the same reason, because I feel, every human being wants to be happy, right? If you ask anyone, what do you want from your life? They say, I want to be happy. But there's so much unhappiness everywhere, see? And I thought, we have the intelligence or the wisdom or the knowledge in the world to lead happier lives. So if you can capture all that in one place and help people lead happier lives, then we could help make the world a better place. And happiness, I realize, is multidimensional in the sense many factors go into being happy. It's your mental health, how successful you are at work, the quality of your relationships, your mindset, whether you have an addiction problem or not, and so on. And because happiness is so multifactorial, HappierMe is got lots of resources that cover all of these bases. You see, you can't be happy if your children are unhappy, for example. If one child's unhappy, you can't be happy. So we've got something for children as well.
Absolutely. I love that approach that you take. And having two children that are now 21 and almost 23, I can reflect back on the developmental stages of both them as humans and me as a parent, and the ebbs and the flows and the level of confidence I had or anxiety over was I making the right decisions, and the own trials and tribulations that we go through as parents in life, both within the context of our family and outside of the context of just us as individuals,
Yes.
Be it personal, place, or relationships. So tell me a little bit more about how the concept of HappierMe has translated into resources to really help with those levers. Where you're at in your developmental stage of life, I understand that you've created something of value and purpose for each person along the way.
Okay. So I think what we're trying to do with HappierMe is to say, here's something to help you feel better now. A good example is we go to a doctor with a fever. And being a doctor, I like this analogy. So a good doctor will give you a tablet to bring the fever down, but then he'll find out why you got the fever in the first place. And if you can treat the root cause of it, then you can be free and healthy for the long term. See? So that's what we're doing with HappierMe. We help people feel better now, and then we give you the tools to say, what's going on to make me feel this way? What's going on in my mind? Can I find another way of dealing with things? Is there another way of looking at things? And once you address the root cause, then you can be free of stress or anxiety or relationship conflict for the long term. So it's not just a quick fix, see? And this understanding can help prevent problems as well.
Certainly, we live in a modern society where we're looking for that quick fix that we feel like will make everything better. But we know that the concepts of happiness and the emotions and mental models and behaviors and thought patterns that we have are so deeply rooted across so many areas of our life.
Yes.
And as a wellness enthusiast for the last, 20 plus years, and a meditation and mindfulness practitioner, and I've been certified in women's meditation and yoga. And so I, of course, was organically drawn to the concept you've created. And one of the first questions I asked you was, so tell me, what's the difference between your app and all the other apps that are out there, right? We have Insight Timer and others that have guided meditations and breathing techniques. I know the answer to this, but for the folks who are watching, what makes your app so uniquely different?
Okay, let me give you an example, a common one. Say you pick up your phone and you're on social media, and your best friend has gone on a holiday you can't afford. And you just can't afford it. So without realizing why, our mind reacts by becoming envious, by feeling less than that person. They might translate to anger. We might say they're showing off. And then we stop talking to that person. And then we blame them for how we're feeling. Okay. That's the cause of this whole social media problem in the world. And what we're doing is saying, yeah, here's some breathing exercises, meditations, mindfulness. Feel better now. But then we say, do you want to find out how you can be better tomorrow and the week after and next year? Because if you don't understand why you felt that way, the same trigger is going to cause the same reaction, right? So then when I start asking what's going on in my mind to make me feel that way, then I learn something amazing, which is my mind is comparing all the time, but I'm not aware of it, right? Now I become aware, I realize that's not serving me. That's spoiling my relationship with all the people in my life, making me feel all this less than others, angry. And it's not serving me, you see. So when I talk to children, and I worked with them for years, and I say, how would your life change if you were in charge of your own mind, right? And you only compared yourself with others when it served you. And Brenda, this 10-year-old girl told me I would be free. So that's the beauty, you see, of this deeper understanding. It really sets us free from suffering for the long term. Because if you're not aware of this, and most of us aren't, it's happening in the background, our suffering just continues. But now I'm aware of it, I can be free. Of course, it doesn't happen in a day, but gradually, slowly, we can be free for the long term. See the beauty of that?
Yeah, absolutely. And I definitely had chills all over when you spoke and referenced the 10-year-old's comment of I would be free.
And this same approach applies to our relationships. You know, so much unhappiness comes from our relationships.
Most definitely. So.
Do you know what I mean? How we speak to each other, how we listen. For example, I have a need to be listened to and understood and loved, but not the same need to listen, understand, and love others. It's just being
quite
But once I see that, I realize that's what's causing the problem in my relationship. I need to step up and listen better and understand and love more. And then we can have harmony, see? And so on. So common sense stuff, none of the things we're talking about are rocket science. They're really simple common sense. But once you see it clearly, your life can change.
Most definitely. And that's one of the things that as I began to explore your app, and both in the beta test phase and the launch phase, what I found were a series of simple to access, easy to understand, and a pathway towards self-discovery that felt organic and inviting versus a task and weighted in sort of like a commitment that you're like, I don't have time for that, right? Like it invites you to lean into yourself. Yes. And it gives you a suite of tools to be able to do so. And I started to ask you, so what about all the applications, right? Like, how do you see this applying to individuals, to families, right? Like, yes. So our specialty in our wheelhouse is helping to provide supports and resources to organizations that serve families across the world. And with us serving more than 2 million families across the world, we know that families and parents need tools and resources that support building the protective factors, the strengths that they need to be the best parent that they can be at each given moment in time. And that means having a better relationship with ourselves, having a better relationship with our partner, having a better relationship with our child, and a better relationship in the workplace.
Yes.
And I'd like to pivot for a second, just for a little bit, and the application of this for workers. And I know I'm not alone when I say that, like, we all experience stressful workplace environments.
Yes.
And it can be caused, like, I love the description of eustress and distress, right? Like, eustress is the positive stress that motivates you, that makes you feel excited to wake up and take on a task that's going to call you to your highest self. Ideally, we get equally or more eustress than we have distress. But the reality is that we have a workforce, especially post the pandemic, that is plagued with a lot of distress, be it caused salary or workplace environment, or negative structures that cause us to wake up and dread that place of work each day, interpersonal conflicts. So how might the app that you've developed and the concept behind HappierMe help those folks who are in workplace settings, family support workers across the country, to be able to improve their life at work?
Yes. So we have an entire section in the app called Work and Leadership. And it's got modules dedicated for the workplace. So communication, leadership, empathy, resilience, diversity and inclusion, all of that, right? That's one thing. The second thing about stress, again, you see, our mind, a good example is a traffic jam. When you're stuck in a traffic jam, you're really stressed. And we all assume the traffic jam's causing our stress. But if we slow it down, we realize two things are happening. There's a traffic jam, then it's the way my mind is reacting to that traffic jam that's creating stress. And what HappierMe is doing is helping you calm down and then find other ways of responding. So the challenges of life will keep coming. But if you can become calmer and stronger on the inside, then you can respond to those challenges with your own inner intelligence rather than automatically. See, the automatic way our mind responds is always with stress. But what we're trying to do is give you the tools to be in charge of how you respond. And then you realize, you have it in you. You have the power in you to respond in a different way. Mm. And then the challenge can keep coming. Today it's money, tomorrow it'll be health, the day after something else will happen, somebody will be rude to you, whatever. But this way you can recover your balance or keep your balance, you see. You're not like in a storm where you're constantly, move from one side to the other. Same with anxiety, same with depression, same with relationship challenges. Like at work, you can become so intelligent because then you can ask yourself, okay, I'm going to say this, but how is it going to be received? Is this the right time to say something, for example? So this inner intelligence can be applied in all sorts of ways. It can help us have happier relationships, be less stressed and anxious, look after our own mental health, avoid and overcome addiction. 1 in 6 people have an addiction issue right now. And develop these communication leadership skills to really excel at work. So it really supports you in all areas of your life, and then, of course, supports your children as well.
Thank you for explaining that. And on that, I'd love to pivot to the newest branch of HappierMe. I know that you've been hard at work for some time now, being able to open it up to a new population. So tell us a little bit about the newest evolution of HappierMe.
So it's going to be one app with 2 separate sections, one for adults and one for teenagers. So the entire family can be supported in one place. And it's not just mental health, but we also look after relationships and so on. And it's been made in a dialogue with teenagers from around the world. So every line of that you're going to read in the teen app has been looked at by teenagers. And there are conversations with teenagers. We've got a feature called Teen Talk. I encourage everyone to look at that because you'll be bowled over by the wisdom of these teenagers that I've spoken to. In fact, all of us have this intelligence. They just need to connect with it and discover it, and then our life can change. And the teenagers I talked to said this they felt was far more important than what they were learning in school, because everything they learn in school is on their phone anyway, right? But nobody teaches them how not to be stressed. Or, for example, I asked a teenager, how would your life change if you stopped worrying about what other people were thinking about you? She said 80% of my stress would disappear. But if you're not aware that's what your mind's doing, then you're just constantly in that churn, you see. And at the moment, it's really sad, but 1 in 5 teens has a mental health issue. And according to the CDC, many young people think of self-harm and all that. So this can be prevented, you see. And we can then make them resilient to cope with and flourish in life in every way.
Most definitely. And I think back to COVID and the shutdown, and my daughter was 17 at the time, and already had struggled with some depression and anxiety. And then the social isolation that came from not having her peers accessible and available. I only saw that grow in her as a mom. And when you had offered up the opportunity that you were recruiting teens to give feedback on it, I reached out to her. She just turned 21 now. And I reached out and I said, hey, Belle, I'm really curious. I want to get your feedback. We're looking at bringing this on a national scale to the family resource centers and the families that they serve, and would love to get your feedback on the app. And 2-3 days later, she reached out. She said, Mom, I absolutely love it. She said, the thing that strikes me the most is that it's not just about processing the negative emotions, but it's exploring the positive ones that make me feel better as a person. And she followed it to say, compared to every other thing I've sent her, caveat, because I've been in the wellness space for a long time, she's had every mindfulness app on her phone, journals on mindfulness for teens, like all the resources that I could get my hands on, I passed along in hopes that one of those tools would resonate. And this stood out to her as the most resourceful, applicable, inviting resource that she's come across. And it sort of sealed the deal for me in terms of how this can transform the lives of the youth that are in our families and the youth that we work with across organizations.
Yes.
So how, I'm curious, perhaps if you could talk a little bit about how folks get connected with HappierMe, but before that, might you be willing to showcase a few of the features in HappierMe?
I'll show you around so users can see what we've done. It's always a work in progress. We want to make it better, and we'd love people's feedback as to, hey, what can we do to make it better? So here we go. Quick tour. All right. So this is HappierMe. It's on your computer, but it's also on your phone. And in the menu on the top right, you can see the 3 bars. And if you click on that, the first item is HappierMe for teenagers. And then that leads you straight into the teenage app. So I'm just going to go back to the adult program. There's a free trial. So if you click on that, you can register and get started. But if you have a login, like I do, I'm just going to get in there. Okay. So there are 8 broad subjects, Brenda. So as I said, there's work and leadership, mental health, relationships, happiness, how to deal with loss, deal with addiction, meditations, and how to manage our emotions. And for different times in our life, different things become important. So that's and you can change, of course, you can explore anything. Or if you have a question, you just want to look at, say you've got a problem with anger, you can explore the anger content. Here's a daily practice, and youngsters love this. So suppose you come in and you're feeling anxious. You click on and you say, okay, why are you feeling anxious? Maybe you say, I've got an exam coming up, and you save it to your journal. But then it says, do you want to find out more about how you're feeling? And then all our content on anxiety comes up, and you can watch you can read a story or watch a video or listen to a podcast or read a blog and so on. So there are different things that you can do. Then there's a daily inspiration. There's a video of the day. This one is just about meditation. Then there's a breathing exercise, a question of the day. So we have an online journal, and every day we get asked a question, like, can you meet someone you know freshly for the first time? And you can find it in the menu at the bottom. So the question of the day, and here you'll find a library of guided questions. So the young people I work with love that.
If I could just insert really quickly the significance and the importance of the online journal. Personally, a very big fan of journaling, but it wasn't until I began a very intentional daily practice with a pen and a paper that I got over the idea of journaling, right? Like the idea of sitting down and writing. And what I love about the online journal option is we are all programmed to text at this point, right? Like phones and texting is a habit that's in 99% of everyone's DNA. And you've made it super simple to be able to articulate feelings that takes away from that instinctive, I think, response that some folks have of journaling and what it requires and all the time that it takes. And so I just want to appreciate that part of this piece in it, and that the prompt, what they put in there, then prompts additional resources tied to what they've written in their journal. And that doesn't exist right now on the market at all.
Yeah. And to give users confidence that everything they write in the journal is encrypted, so even our team can't see it. So it's all very confidential. We're following all the latest guidelines. So then you could track your progress. Now, suppose you just want to feel better, and you've got a list of things, and suppose you're feeling stressed. So you'll come in here and you'll have a breathing exercise for a minute, or a little do voice yoga, or watch a couple of videos, or listen to a mini podcast. And that'll help you feel better, as I said. And then we invite you, hey, let's go a little deeper. Let's study this subject of stress in more detail. For example, you might learn that acceptance dissolves stress, right? Mm-hmm. So in any situation, you can ask yourself, can I accept things as they are? Can I accept how Brenda's loading the dishwasher? Does it matter? You know what I mean? And if I can, in that instant, my stress is gone. See? And actually, for all the things we can't change in our life, acceptance dissolves stress. So this module on stress is beautiful because it really gets into a lot of depth. So that's the whole way we work. And then, so there are many other things there. And then, of course, all our library of content is here. For example, we've got more than 100 podcasts on work and mental health and relationships. You know, I think there's hardly any relationship apps out there. There's lots of apps on stress and breathing, but relationships are the biggest cause of our happiness and our distress, as you know. So we have lots and lots of podcasts on relationships. Here's one on raising teenagers, for example, or and so on. So that's our library of content. Now, suppose here you can contact a coach. By the way, we have coaches from around the world, Robin's in Philadelphia, Carolyn's in Australia, and so on. So lots of people from around the world there. But suppose you want to go on a journey of learning about yourself and being an excellent human being, because you know your life on earth is limited. You don't want to spend it being unhappy, sad, miserable. You want to be really full of joy, you know, and you want to be successful and happy. The two can go together. So we've got this program called Pathway. Start with a calm mind. Then you understand yourself, understand how your mind works, manage all your emotions, deal with depression if you're feeling that, or loneliness or anger. And then you can apply it to every part of life, whether it's happiness or dealing with criticism or overcoming an addiction and so on. Here you can find quick answers to questions. And here are a set of beautiful, tiny exercises you can do to develop your own awareness and emotional intelligence. And with this intelligence, then, you can flourish in life in every way, you see. So we've built something I think that's really beautiful. That could really make a difference to everyone's life, children. And the earlier, of course, we start, the better. Now, if you go to the menu, you'll find the app for teenagers. It's very similar to what we've done for adults, but there's some differences. For example, here there's a section called Teen Talk. And if you open that up, these are the conversations I was talking about with young people from around the world. And if any teenagers are listening and want to be featured here, get in touch, because we'd love to have different voices here. But what it means to be a teenager, and other teenagers will then resonate with that. And it's amazing how wise they are and how clever they are. I'm just so impressed with them. So I hope that's given a little flavor, Brenda. And right at the bottom here, we are on a mission to help make the world better. So if you want to be part of that, there are lots of videos here on how to deal with climate change or end conflict or, prevent war and so on. But yeah, so I hope that's given a little flavor of all the things we have, and there are new things coming all the time.
Absolutely. I appreciate that tour. It makes me inspired to open up the app when we're done and just take a little moment for myself personally. One follow-up question with regard to the teens. What age range is the app targeted for teens?
Okay, I think everyone's development is different. You know what I mean? So sometimes 10-year-olds get all this stuff. And so I would say start at 10. And it's a beautiful thing. Then you can sit down with your children and talk to them and say, hey, let's look at this together. So I have a stepson, and I'll put it up on the TV. I'll project it on the TV and say, okay, so it's a way of bringing families together, you see. You know what I mean? And I say to him, well, I get stressed as well, it's not just you, and so on. So then it makes him feel, oh yeah, I'm not alone in this. We're all the same, you see. Children tell you beautifully. I said, how can we end war? If you tell a room full of adults, they've got no answer. Ask children, they'll say, to remember we're the same ice cream, just different flavors.
That's beautiful.
Isn't that beautiful? So the more we realize that we are the same human being deep down, all of us, the more we can live with compassion for each other, with goodness, and we can sprinkle a bit of happiness in the world.
That's right. And I'm a firm believer that the earlier we can teach emotional intelligence, starting with, we have a feelings book, and my bonus son is 6 years old, and, he loves the book with the pop-up feelings, and we talk about those feelings and when did we feel that way? And every night we end the night with, what's one feeling you had today and why was that? And it's a conversation that's critical. And I love that your app invites that conversation. And the earlier you have it, the more you can have it with your teen as they go through those years where they may be less inclined to want to open up with how they're feeling. But if you have that foundation in your family and the concept of emotional intelligence, that is a dialogue that's continuous, you've created a space that very well will create different outcomes for them than they may have experienced that might be more adverse and challenging for them.
Being young is tough, I mean, actually, life is tough, right? Being an adult is not easy either, but we're just trying to make it easier for everyone.
Dr. Manoj, I greatly appreciate your mission in the world, the work that you do, the resources you provided, and your desire to partner with the National Family Support Network to bring this app and the tools and happiness to family support organizations and families across the country. Thank you so very much.
Brenda, thank you. I'm really looking forward to